All right, so summary. If we look at all the things that we talked about over the last 3 nights, right? The Bible is the only source for religious authority and the teachings in Christianity. It has to be, because this is a message from God, and this is something that we need to make sure that we understand, right? The Bible message comes from God, belongs to God, therefore God is the only one that has the right to change that message. We must be careful to study things and teach it in its context, in its proper context, because the writers had an intention for what they wanted to say, and so we need to build that intention into the things that we say and make sure that we say it the way they said it, right? It is complete, and all that is taught and practiced in Christianity must be found in the Bible. If you see teachings that are not found in the Bible, those teachings are man-made and not from God. Okay? All right. The Bible message, the message of God does not evolve. It has not evolved for the last 2,000 years or however long it's been. It does not evolve and must be the same as the one found and recorded during the time of the apostles. Okay? We've established that. You cannot change the teachings. Condemnation on those who do change the teachings. And that has not changed since it began. Right? No person or group of people, such as church leaders, have the authority to add to or take away. The apostles themselves in the warning said, even if we or an angel come to you with a different message, let them be condemned. So, the apostles had no right. The disciples had no right. Any teacher who changes the things do not have the right, and condemnation on that person. Okay? What else? Praying for the dead says that people still have penalty to pay for after receiving forgiveness. And if they do not pay all of this penalty while alive, then they will have to pay for it in purgatory after death. No Bible passage teaches any of this. Okay? No Bible passage teaches about purgatory. No Bible passage teaches about penance as far as what we see in the Catholic Church. No Bible passage talks about praying for the dead, influencing the souls of the people who are dead. Okay? The teaching of purgatory and praying for the dead claim that one person can do religious things to help pay the penalty owned by another person in purgatory. No Bible passage supports this. Right? No Bible passage teaches that relatives and friends can do religious things on behalf of the dead person in order to change that person's eternal destination. Nowhere. Okay? Teachings that are based upon 2 Maccabees, which is not from God and cannot be in the canon. There were no prophets when they were alive, as far as we've seen. There have been no evidence that prophets existed during the time period between the end of Malachi and the beginning when John came and prophesied Jesus is coming. No prophets existed between that time, as far as we know. There's been no evidence. The writer himself did not claim to be from God. The people did what they thought was right in hopes that when a prophet does come, he can correct whatever mistakes they are making. They did the best they could in the situation. Maccabees was not officially accepted by any church leader since the very beginning until the time of the Council of Trent. Okay? The Council of Trent in 1546 was the time where Maccabees was included in the canon of the scriptures, the Old Testament. All right? So the teachings are man-made and evolved over a period of many years. Neither of these is mentioned in the Bible. Okay? The whole idea of evolution and things like this. The earliest mention is the Council of Florence in 1439. And even that is 1,400 years after the time of Christ. Right? The current version that we have, the current teachings that the Catholic Church teaches, if you go and find the catechism online, or you go downstairs and you look at the Catholic encyclopedia that we have, you will find that these teachings are going back to the time of the Council of Trent. Okay? Which is 1563. All right. There is no evidence that these were official teachings before the big split, right? We talked about the big split where the Catholic Church kind of split in half. We see in 1054, which is 1,000 years after, right? 1054, because the Greek Catholic Church had a issue with some of the things. One of the things was included in that is the Pope. The Pope being the head versus a council or a group of people, right? There was this split in 1054, but the Greek Orthodox or the Eastern Orthodox side of the Catholic Church or the church has never and so far has never taught this idea of purgatory. It's only in the Western side. True Bible teaching does not evolve. Okay? The bottom line. True Bible teachings do not evolve. So, we know now that there will be a judgment day. Each and every soul will stand before the judgment seat of Christ. Christ is the one who's going to do it. So there is fairness. Okay? All the dead will rise and be judged. Jesus will judge based upon the teachings that he gave, who were from the Father, right? The teachings that the apostles gave, who were from the Father, given to them through the Holy Spirit, right? These things are going to be the basis of the judgment. The teachings will be the basis of the judgment. Good will be rewarded and bad will be punished. At some time during or after the resurrection and judgment, the universe as we know it will be burned up. When that happens, the time frame behind that, we don't know exactly. It doesn't say. But we know it will happen. Okay? And every person is accountable in the judgment, and the judgment will be based upon how things each person does match with the teachings that Jesus gave from God. You and you alone are going to be the deciding factor of whether or not you go to heaven. And it will all be based upon the teachings that Jesus gave, the teachings that the apostles gave, and that's it. And they will be compared to your actions and the things that you do. All will stand before Christ and receive good or evil based upon what he or she did while they were alive. The passages all point to this idea. This will not change after you die. Nothing you do, your family does, or anything will change that after you die. This is why it's so very important to deal with this before you die. No passage teaches that a person can change their place after they die. The Bible does not tell us exactly what happens to the soul of people between the time of death and the time when Jesus will return for judgment. It doesn't say. Nowhere in the scriptures does it clearly indicate what happens in that time span. Okay? Our bodies decay back into the ground. Our souls return to God. That's the best we've got. What does that mean? I don't know. It doesn't say. We will find out what really happens if and when we experience it. That's all we can say. There's a lot of things that I have questions. I have a list of questions for God. If I ever get the chance to sit him down and ask him about it. And one of the things is this, but by that time I don't really have to ask because I've already experienced it. You understand? I mean, it's like there are things that are told to us. There are things that are not. Everything that we need is provided. So focus on what God says and don't worry about the rest. Because if we try to argue and complain about the things that God doesn't speak on, all we end up doing is causing confusion and causing disunity, right? There's enough for us to worry about. All right? So, remember, it's God's message. He used these men as instruments, right? He used these men as instruments. And the result is the Bible. So we take that Bible today, we study that Bible, and then we teach it. And that's kind of what we do here at the Bible Study Center. Our goal is to look for context, making sure that we look at the Bible in its proper, the way it was intended to be looked at. Not just picking and choosing a verse, making it say whatever we want. It's not the way it's supposed to be done. We must teach what God really says. And that's what's important. Just remember, the whole evolution thing. Teachings don't evolve. Yet we see the whole concept of praying for the dead and purgatory and this kind of thing. It evolved. It does. If it's from God, we would have seen it from the very beginning, but yet we don't see it there, right? True teachings from God do not evolve. Okay. Thank you guys so very, very much for coming, for being here last couple of days. I appreciate it.